What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Vicente Luque returns to the win column with win over Rafael Dos Anjos. In the main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 78, Vicente Luque snapped a two-fight skid as he returned to the win column with a big victory over Rafael Dos Anjos. The fight marked a triumphant return for Luque after suffering a brain bleed following his August 2022 loss to Jeff Neal. The fight was an incredibly competitive one, with both men finding success at various points. However, in the end, it was Luque's activity with the jab and his takedowns that ultimately earned the silent assassin the win. After the bout, Luque spoke inside the octagon about the win and what the future holds for him, revealing that he's eager to insert himself into the mix for a crack at the 170-pound title. With Colby Covington currently next in line for a crack at the title, and Belal Muhammad expected to get the next crack at the belt after him, Luque could find himself forced to compete in at least one more fight before being truly in the title mix. On the flip side, former lightweight champion Rafael Dos Anjos has now returned to the loss column, dropping him to 3-2 in his last 5. After entering the fight as an unranked fighter at 170 pounds, RDA certainly won't find himself slipping in the official welterweight rankings. However, at 38 years old, his path to a title shot may just be getting increasingly difficult. With a number of welterweight contenders eager to return to the octagon, like Gilbert Burns, Kamaru Usman, and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, there's certainly no shortage of fun fights to be made at 170 pounds. Following Saturday's main event, who do you want to see RDA and Vicente Luque fight inside the octagon? Play matchmaker and drop your thoughts in the comments section below. Sean Strickland's coach talks Israel Adesanya fight. At UFC 293, middleweight contender Sean Strickland will compete in a highly anticipated title fight with none other than the last stylebender Israel Adesanya. After the pair's exchange leading up to Strickland's fight with Alex Pereira, fans have been clamoring to see the two men go at it, both on the mic and inside the octagon. After Dricus du Plessis was unable to accept a September fight with the last stylebender in Sydney, the UFC shifted its focus to a fight between Strickland and Adesanya, granting the controversial contender his wish. Ahead of the fight, Extreme Couture head coach Eric Nixick knows that the veteran has a tough test ahead of him when he and Adesanya step into the octagon with one another on September 10th. While speaking with ESPN, he talked about the opportunity of a lifetime in front of his fighter.
It was probably one of the realest moments I've ever had with Sean was, just recently we were in the gym, just me and him. He said, man, this might be my only opportunity at this. This might be my only chance at a shot at the title. And you could see, he had that emotion to him where he was excited for this challenge. And
while Hall of Famer Michael Bisping has predicted that Strickland's grappling could be the X factor in the fight, former two-division contender Henry Cejudo believes that Strickland's true path to victory is to simply go for broke. In a recent video for his YouTube channel, he spoke about the fight as a self-proclaimed Israel Adesanya hater.
Anyhow, the keys for a guy like Sean Strickland. I'm gonna give you these keys. Do I think you're gonna win, Sean? As you're brutally honest with the world, no, I don't. You're gonna have to take space. Take space and create fights. I mean, you have to take risks.
Given the bad blood between the two men, it'll be interesting to see how things play out when the pair meet in the center of the octagon. Before we continue, make sure you give that like button some love and be sure to subscribe to the MMA Zone for all of the latest news. Dana White breaks silence on Jake Paul. When Jake Paul was first making a name for himself in the celebrity boxing scene, UFC President Dana White expressed his frustration over repeatedly being asked about the controversial YouTuber by media members. Following Paul's recent victory over Nate Diaz earlier this month, the UFC president spoke about Paul during an episode of former heavyweight champ Mike Tyson's Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson podcast.
I don't hate Jake Paul. Jake
Everybody's unhateable.
Jake Paul is one of those guys that he's a young kid and he's just trying to get attention. He's always looking for attention and he's doing his thing. Whatever, it's all good.
White then shifted gears, praising Jake's brother, Logan Paul, who recently struck a deal with the UFC for his prime drink, calling the YouTuber brilliant. When Jake's brother Logan steps into the ring next, he'll do so against Conor McGregor's friend and teammate Dylan Dennis. Although Paul has quite the size advantage over Dennis, it sounds as though McGregor himself will be training Dennis for the fight. While speaking with Matchroom Boxing on Saturday at the Anthony Joshua fight, McGregor spoke about the bout, saying,
"They're already backtracking right now. They're a woken animal. I know Dylan years, I've trained with him many times. I've helped him. I'm guiding him. I'm going to train him for this, and I guarantee a win."
With the bout set to take place on October 14th, it should coincide well with McGregor's plan to return at the UFC's December 16th card, as both Danis and McGregor look to make their return to action. We want to hear from you. How will the pair's highly anticipated return fights play out? Drop your predictions in the comments section below. Conor McGregor reveals UFC plan. For months now, the MMA community has continued to wait for news regarding when former two-division champion Conor McGregor will re-enter the USADA testing pool. Although there was recently speculation that McGregor could bypass a fight with Michael Chandler in favor of a fight with recently minted BMF Justin Gaethje, UFC President Dana White has since set the record straight on the situation, saying that McGregor will in fact fight Chandler when he returns to action. On Saturday, while sitting ringside at the Anthony Joshua fight to promote his forged Irish Stout, the former champ spoke to TalkSport to discuss his next fight, stating that he will be fighting Michael Chandler when he returns, before then setting his sights on Justin Gaethje in a trilogy fight with Nate Diaz. In addition, McGregor said that he would be returning in December, leading many to suspect that he'll in fact be granted an exemption from the 6 months of mandatory testing under USADA.
Next December, and then Gaethje BMF, and then we'll do Nate trilogy.
Given the fact that the MMA community and many UFC fighters have stated that they would be incredibly disappointed if McGregor was allowed to compete while bypassing proper USADA procedure, it seems as though the UFC could have quite the media storm on their hands if the fight does end up getting announced for December. Stay tuned for updates as they become available. Update on the most tested UFC fighters. Although former two-division champion Conor McGregor has yet to re-enter the USADA testing pool, the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency has been hard at work testing UFC fighters in order to ensure a clean sport and a level playing field. With the halfway point of the year behind us, let's take a look at the updated USADA testing numbers. As of August 10th, the most tested fighters in the UFC are Paulo Costa and Charles Johnson, with 18 tests apiece. In the case of Costa, there's been speculation among fans that jokes about his signature secret juice could play into the reason USADA continues to test him so heavily. Sitting in second place is Jessica Andrade, who has registered 16 tests with USADA, followed by 15 tests for heavyweight champion Jon Jones and bantamweight contender Marlon Chito Vera. Sitting just behind them with 14 tests is Sharabutdin Magomedov, followed by Ariana Cristina Carnelosi and Kamaru Usman with 13 tests. Then Magomed Ankalaev and Clay Guida with 12 tests. According to statistics presented by Jedi Goodman on Twitter, so far, USADA has tested 671 athletes, a total of 2,512 times this year. Interestingly enough, one name who didn't make the list was Yuri Prohaska, who wound up being tested over 60 times by USADA in 2022, the most of any athlete tested by USADA across all professional sports. As Costa prepares for his UFC 294 scrap against Khamzat Chimaev, he's likely to continue to get tested repeatedly. Dana White reveals big money move for UFC. As fans continue to wonder how things will play out when the UFC and ESPN sit down to discuss the promotion's broadcast deal, UFC President Dana White has teased another big move for the promotion. While speaking with former heavyweight boxing champion Mike Tyson on the recent episode of his Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson podcast, White cryptically spoke about a deal he's working on, negotiating with Walmart. While details remain scarce, any sort of deal with a massive corporation like Walmart could certainly be huge for the promotion.
We're talking about this deal right now. It's not a done deal, but we're talking about this deal right now with Walmart. And, we're talking about this big, long-term deal with these guys. And, we're still in the works. But, yeah, we're gonna go on a road tour here, hitting these different cities and different Walmarts.
Of course, the question among fans has been whether the deal will see fighters earn money, or whether the deal will be one similar to the Project Rock deal. With White seemingly in the process of negotiating things behind the scenes, only time will tell when the deal will be finalized.